Holy hell, Monday Night Raw is old. 30 years. I can't imagine anyone ever being that old. It could never happen to me. As the show prepares to celebrate its 30th birthday, and not its 30th anniversary, because I guess not knowing how anniversaries work is a WWE thing regardless of the regime, we can now take a moment to reflect on the times that the show wasn't a steaming pile. It's happened less often than you think. Alright, let's quit the pitter-patter and let's get at her. I'm Tempest, hailing from partsFUNknown, and this is the best match from every year of WWE Raw. But before we get on with our list, make sure of course that you like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications to always on so you never miss a fun list just like it. And make sure that you check out the plethora of Royal Rumble content that we've had coming your way this month. Watch Survival Series, it's also great and Royal Rumble themed, and you love the Royal Rumble, don't lie to me, I know you do. 1993, Shawn Michaels versus Marty Jannetty, episode 26, July 19th. Hey, remember when Marty Jannetty jumped through the barbershop window to escape Shawn Michaels? Well, a year and a half later, Jannetty finally pulled himself out of Brutus Beefcake's storefront to challenge HBK for the Intercontinental Championship on Raw. In the doldrums of the New Generation era, these two had a match that both encapsulated why they were one of the most popular tag teams of their day and why their style would be representative of the future of Raw. It's a shame Shawn had to drop the title here. Everyone will always remember that Marty Jannetty's better than him. 1994, Bret Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid, episode 69, July 4th. Look at this little head tilt. This is my favorite part of the match. Bret Hart defends the WWE Championship against the 1-2-3 Kid, and Kid takes him over, and through superb physical storytelling, Bret realizes that this match is going to be a lot more than he had prepared for. Bret has always been a master of the ring, and when he got to wrestle someone who could keep up with him, it made for the highlights of mid-90s WWE. 1995, Bret Hart versus Hakushi, episode 121, July 24th. Here he is again, that Bret Hart, having good matches in 1995. What a god. 1995 is maybe the worst calendar year in WWE history, and that extended to their flagship program. Bret faced Hakushi while Jerry Lawler berated him and our ears on commentary, and it is a shame Hakushi didn't get more of a run in WWE considering how well he worked with a top star like Bret. Bret fights off Hakushi's manager and wins with the sharpshooter. It's nothing memorable, but then again, neither is 1995. 1996, Shawn Michaels versus 1-2-3 Kid, episode 149, March 4th. HB Shizzle may not have liked many people in the 90s, but he sure liked his friends. The 1-2-3 Kid was one of those friends, and as such, the match they had on Raw in March of 1996 felt like two friends working super hard for one another. Shawn was just weeks out from his coronation at WrestleMania 12, and this was a great showcase match with crisp action and Shawn fighting off the interference of Ted DiBiase. Again, it isn't mind-blowing by today's standards, but considering what else was on Raw at the time, yeah, this is pretty great. 1997, Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin versus Owen Hart and British Bulldog, episode 211, May 26th. When WWE has just put their best wrestlers in the ring and let them wrestle, good things have happened. Doesn't matter which time we were traveling around the sun, WWE's best have been pretty great. It also doesn't matter when it is, WWE loves themselves a can you coexist, don't they? It's in the episode description, for f***'s sake. Michaels and Austin did indeed coexist and had a great match doing it. 1998, Steve Austin versus Kane, episode 266, June 29th. 1998 wasn't a great year for match quality for WWE on Monday nights, but that wasn't what made Raw must-see. It was Steve Austin up motherfuckers. One night after being screwed out of his WWE Championship at King of the Ring, Austin just said he wasn't going to stand for it, winning his title back in the quickest fashion possible. It isn't the technical masterclass that would become commonplace on Raw 20 years later, but that pop when Austin wins the title back is Attitude Era frenzy to a T. 1999, The Rock vs. Mankind, episode 299, February 15th. This is a real hot potato era for the WWE Championship. Despite this only being the 46th day of 1999, this was already the 4th title change of the year. While that might be completely mad to some, it wasn't for the people in the crowd that night. The Rock and Mankind have a very good ladder match, much more in line with the ladder matches of the time pre-Hardys, Dudleys, and Edge and Christian, with less giant spots and more wrestling, with John the Dwayne Roxon earning his way to WrestleMania to face Steve Austin. 2000, Triple H, X-Pac, and the Radicals versus The Rock, Mick Foley, and Too Cool, episode 350, February 7th. The WWF mid-card had finally arrived. The turning of the tide and the quality of Monday Night Raw as an overall program came when they finally sorted out their goddamn roster. When you take a roster that already had Mick Foley, The Rock, Undertaker, Kane, and Triple H at the top, and then start to add folks like the Radicals, that's how you get a stacked roster. Sure enough, you had this massive collection of stars who would be incapable of having a bad match. The star power alone would have carried this match, but thankfully, they did a good wrestle too, didn't they? 2001, Triple H and Steve Austin versus Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit, episode 417, May 21st. For a long time, I only knew this as the one where Triple H tore his quad. My favorite episode of Friends. But no, this might be the single greatest match in Raw history. Triple H still in his best run, Steve Austin still being one of the best workers of his generation, and then two incredible underdog workers that the crowd badly wanted to see win. This might be the best tag match in WWE history, and this is slightly unrelated, but Jericho and Benoit wrestled TLC 3, maybe the best match in SmackDown history, the next night. Incredible. 2002, TLC 4, episode 489, October 7th. If TLC 3 is the forgotten TLC match, I don't even know what that makes TLC 4. The weird TLC match where the original three teams all got spliced up, with Bubba Ray Dudley swapping Devon out for Spike, Christian exchanged his Edge for a Chris Jericho, and Jeff Hardy got a new brother in Rob Van Dam. All the while, Kane was tanking the match solo. It is a car crash on free TV. I pray for the men involved, but thank them very much for having such a great match. 2003, Triple H vs. Shawn Michaels, episode 553, December 29th. Adam really needs to have a chat with his dad about ruining people's fun. He did it a lot in WCW, but hadn't gotten his fill apparently because he decided that this match for the World Heavyweight Championship had to abide by the rules. Triple H and Shawn Michaels have probably their best straight singles match, and just as the match reaches its conclusion with Shawn appearing to have won the big gold belt once more, Eric the Bish alerts us all that Shawn's shoulders were down too. No fun, no winner, but a great match. 2004, Shawn Michaels vs. Chris Benoit, episode 571, May 3rd. 2003 was a bad year for Raw. 2004, however, saw a massive influx of talent, capable of putting on fantastic matches with extreme regularity, just like this one. Benoit and Michaels were maybe the best workers in WWE at the time, and the two of them wrestling a half-hour classic for the big gold belt is a prime example of why Raw was actually so good in 2004. This finish, though, gotta be all about Triple H. 2005, Shawn Michaels vs. Shelton Benjamin, episode 623, May 2nd. Best super kick of all time. 3 years in a row, HB Shizzle having the best Raw match of the year. The final leg of this trilogy stands as one of the best matches in Raw history, and a prime example of why Shelton Benjamin should have been given so much more of a chance in WWE. I could talk about this match until Raw becomes 2 hours, but all I want to talk about is this kick. Kicks his face off of his face. 2006, Edge vs. Ric Flair, episode 660, January 16th. It took nearly 6 years for WWE to put on their first TLC singles match. And when fans thought about all the great candidates to have that first singles TLC match, I don't think any of them would have considered Ric Flair as one of the men involved, but that does not mean the match wasn't great. Edge and Flair didn't do a lot of high flying, but they put on a smartly worked match that had the crowd in a frenzy by the time Edge retrieved his belt. Also, look at Charlotte. 2007, John Cena vs. Shawn Michaels, episode 726, April 23rd. Is there a more legendary Raw match? Just a match that has become part of the lore of the show and respected by basically everyone. Just weeks after their epic match in the main event of WrestleMania, John Cena and Shawn Michaels put on one of the longest matches in Raw history, going 56 minutes and tearing the house down right here in London, England. You don't see matches like this on Raw then or now, and as a result, this is an achievement of a performance when you consider the ability needed to not only wrestle for an hour, but be this entertaining for an hour. 2008, Jeff Hardy vs. Umaga, episode 763, January 7th. The best whisper in the wind of all time. Jeff Hardy and Umaga had really great chemistry with one another, and that was on full display here when they were locked in a steel cage in the main event of Raw Roulette 2008. This is a really fun cage match, with Hardy trying to fight off his monstrous opponent while dealing with Randy Orton's continued interference from the outside before getting the win with the best whisper in the wind of all time. 2009, John Cena vs. Shawn Michaels, episode 816, January 12th. During his second run with WWE, Shawn Michaels had the best Raw match of the year 5 separate times. They don't call him the best for nothing. Cena and HBK rekindled their 2007 rivalry just in time for Shawn's boss JBL to have a terrible match with John Cena at the Royal Rumble. And if that sounds stupid, that's because it was. This match was an underrated gem, with Shawn getting the win because it is written in stone that Shawn beats Cena every time unless the title is on the line. 2010, Randy Orton vs. Edge vs. Chris Jericho, episode 895, July 19th. Don't ask me why I vividly remember this episode of Raw from 2010, but it was a phenomenal show. The episode where Cena forms Team WWE to take on the Nexus starts with this all-star triple threat match. Orton, Edge, and Jericho all battle to face Sheamus for the WWE Championship, and here Edge and Jericho's 2010 rivalry keeps getting in the way of either man getting the win, with Orton coming away with it at the height of his popularity. 2011, The Miz vs. John Morrison, episode 919, 2015, January 3rd. The only good title defense of the Miz's WWE Championship reign, on the first Raw of 2011, The Miz Mizanin put his belt on the line against the Parkour Prince and former tag team partner, John Morrison. Too many WWE Falls Count Anywhere matches still end in the ring, and I can't stand it. So, any Falls Count Anywhere match that ends literally anywhere else gets a gold star from me, like this one. 2012, Dolph Ziggler vs. Daniel Bryan, episode 1013, October 22nd. It is absolutely incredible to see how much of a difference in star power there is between Mr. Money in the Bank, supposedly with a bright future Dolph Ziggler, and It Should Have Been Me, Dolph Ziggler. Here he takes on former World Heavyweight Champion Daniel Bryan and is presented as being completely on his level. They are two talented wrestlers doing a talented wrestle in front of fans that haven't been beaten down by the treatment of both men yet. Bryan is in his no phase, he and Kane are very entertaining. 2013, CM Punk vs. John Cena, episode 1030, February 18th. What would the timeline look like if this match simply had a different result? CM Punk and John Cena may have been each other's greatest opponent, and on February 18th, 2013, they had their last match together. Had Punk won, or they'd done a schmoz and done a triple threat at Mania, giving Punk that Mania main event he wanted so badly, who knows how we look back at the past decade of Punk history. Also, there's a pile driver in this match, and that's just neat. 2014, The Wyatts vs. The Shield, episode 1084, March 3rd. The sequel to the two factions' excellent match at Elimination Chamber, this time the Wyatts beat the Shield not simply because they overwhelmed them, separating each Shield member from the pack and beating them at their own numbers game, but because this is where Seth Rollins had enough of his team's bickering. Seth walks out to end a fantastic trios match, furthering the tension within the Shield and foreshadowing the group's real split months later. 2015, John Cena vs. Cesaro, episode 1154, July 6th. To be perfectly honest, there are about a dozen matches that could have made excellent entries for 2015. Seth Rollins vs. Neville, Roman Reigns vs. Cesaro, but when you think of Raw in 2015, you think of John Cena's US Open Challenge. Hell, there are 10 candidates just from that reign alone. However, on July 6th, Cena took on Cesaro in a pay-per-view main event caliber match, going a half hour in the main event of the show and tearing the house down like we had never seen in 2015 before. 2016, Charlotte vs. Sasha Banks, episode 1227, November 28th. For as jank as Sasha Banks and Charlotte's pay-per-view matches were in 2016, every time they wrestled on Raw, they killed it. Any of the 3 times Sasha won the title could have made it on here, but the Falls Count Anywhere match the two had on November 28th is the best of the bunch. And hey, look at this finish! Not in the ring! That's a big old gold star from dear old Tempest. Look at this bank statement. Jesus wept, that's beautiful. 2017, Bayley vs. Charlotte, episode 1238, February 13th. 2017 was a very strange time. WWE seemed bound and determined to take the slam dunk moment of Bayley's first main roster title win and do every single possible thing wrong with it. Win at WrestleMania? Nah. Break Charlotte's pay-per-view undefeated streak in a satisfying way? Nah. Have Bayley admit that she didn't deserve to be champion but was going to be champion anyway? Yup. How did you land on that? The match itself is the only bit they got right in this equation, as Bayley and Charlotte brought that NXT level of quality to the main roster. 2018, Seth Rollins vs. Finn Balor, episode 1301, April 30th. Seth Rollins and Finn Balor had a pair of excellent matches in early 2018, but this one was for the Intercontinental Championship, raising that title's value with another great title defense, and this match was given the distinction of being the main event of the show. This was the best Seth was as a babyface, and if they had simply allowed him the chance to have a long run as IC champion with title defenses like this, he'd have been the top babyface WWE always wanted him to be. 2019, The Revival vs. Chad Gable and Bobby Roode, episode 1342, February 11th. The reports from the house shows at the time were that the Gable and Roode vs. Revival matches were consistently fantastic and consistently tore the house down. Watching this match, I can fully believe it. However, those matches probably got a better live reaction than this one got. Two awesome teams having the TV match of the year in front of absolute silence, then a "This is awesome" chant, then back to silence. Might as well have had no fans at all. Oh wait, no, 2020, Randy Orton vs. Drew McIntyre, episode 1434, November 16th. The bad times. This is the best of a cursed bunch. Drew McIntyre wins the WWE title back, that's happy fun time, but it can never be watched again because they're wrestling in front of your dad trying to figure out how to make his browser full screen. I can't talk about pandemic wrestling anymore. We move. 2021, Seth Rollins vs. Rey Mysterio vs. Finn Balor vs. Kevin Owens, episode 1483, October 25th. It is tricky to have an ultra-memorable ladder match these days. However, putting 4 of your best wrestlers in the match with high stakes is a good place to start. On the ever-important season premiere of Raw, these dudes took bumps no one should be taking on free TV. But hey, you tell Kevin Owens not to swanton his way onto a ladder. The next time we make a list of underrated ladder matches, this one will be on it. 2022, RK Bro vs. Alpha Academy vs. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, episode 1502, March 7th. Here's a thought that doesn't often creep into my head. I miss Randy Orton. Orton spent so much time doing nonsense with The Fiend that when he finally got to just wrestle some matches, he was great. Everyone was desperately trying to find a match for WrestleMania, so in a sense this match had added stakes, even though that's a weird way to promote your wrestlers for your big show. But these dudes are all great, and we get another all-time great RKO, a thing of beauty. And 2023, Austin Theory vs. Seth Rollins, episode 1545, January 2nd. Slim pickings here. Not that this match wasn't good, we've just got 3 Raws to work with in 2023 so far. Seth Rollins has been the best in-ring performer on Raw for the past several years, and it doesn't appear that that is going to change in 2023. Rollins tried to get his US title back on the first Raw of the year, and while he didn't manage it, he did manage to have the best match of the whole year. The whole year! No need to continue, cancel Raw there, happy birthday. And that's our list. Make sure of course that you subscribe to partsFUNknown, and if you want another list to catch up on right now, make sure you check out this one, the 15 greatest Royal Rumble comedy spots. Johnny Knoxville getting his brains bashed in by AJ Styles in 2022, or Vince McMahon selling his knees to Saudi Arabia. I'm Tempest, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are the 15 greatest Royal Rumble comedy spots ever.